Your brain is the most powerful storage device on Earth. It can store up to 25 petabytes of data. It's enough to store 3 million hours of TV shows, or 375 terabytes worth of photos. But have you ever stopped to wonder how it does this? How does your brain turn moments into memories? Do you store your memories in your head, like files in a folder? Is there a part of your brain that's just for memories? Today we are going to answer all of these questions and more in our video. How does your brain store memories? Coming up next. Have you ever tried to remember something really important right before going to bed? You think you've got it, but then when you wake up, it's gone? Why is it so hard to remember things sometimes? What actually happens in our brains when we form memories? To understand how your brain stores memories, first, let's look at what a memory actually is. Memories aren't stored anywhere specifically in your brain. They're not like files and folders on your computer. Instead, memories are made from the connections between neurons or brain cells. The brain has about 86 billion neurons. These neurons are connected to each other with synapses, which are gaps between the neurons. When you learn something new or experience something new, different groups of neurons become active. These activated neurons send chemical signals across the synapses to each other. These signals can change the strength of the synapse. Synapses that are used often become stronger. Those that aren't used often become weaker. So it's the pattern of connection between the neurons that stores your memories. This is also how you learn. Each time you practice a skill or repeat a behavior, the corresponding memory trace becomes stronger. Strengthening the synapses allows the neurons to communicate more efficiently. Now that we know where memories are stored, let's take a closer look at what happens inside the brain when you form a new memory. There are three main types of memory: sensory memory, short-term memory, and long-term memory. Sensory memory is the first stage of memory, and it holds all of the information that you're resensing right now. For example, if you were looking at a tree right now, your sensory memory would hold the color, shape, and location of that tree. Sensory memory only lasts for a few seconds. If you want to remember the information longer, you have to move it to short-term memory. Short-term memory is where you keep information that you're actively thinking about. This could be the tree you're looking at or the words in a sentence you're reading. Short-term memory usually lasts for about 20 to 30 seconds, but it can be extended with the use of working memory. Working memory is the part of our memory that we use to hold information while we read doing something else. An example of working memory is using the digits in a phone number while dialing. We hold that information in our minds until we finish dialing. If you want to remember something for a very long time, you have to move it from short-term memory to long-term memory. Long-term memory is where you store information that you will need later. This could be the name of a friend or the capital of France. Long-term memory can last for years or even decades. So how do you get information from one type of memory to another? Well, the process starts with neurons. Neurons are the basic unit of the nervous system. They are responsible for carrying messages throughout the body. In order to communicate, neurons release special chemicals called neurotransmitters. Neurotransmitters cross the synapses to deliver their message. Once the message is received, the neuron either fires or doesn't fire. If a neuron doesn't fire, the connection between the two neurons weakens and eventually the memory is lost. But if the neuron does fire, the connection between the two neurons strengthens and the memory is retained. This process is called synaptic plasticity. So how does synaptic plasticity lead to memory formation? Well, when you want to remember something, your brain creates a memory trace. A memory trace is a pattern of interconnected neurons that represents the thing you want to remember. For example, if you want to remember the name of a friend, your brain might create a memory trace that looks like this. This memory trace consists of a group of neurons that are all connected to each other. The neurons in this group are active whenever you think about your friend's name. Over time, this pattern of activity becomes stronger and stronger until eventually you can just think of your friend and the name pops into your head. But why do you sometimes forget things that you've just learned? It's because your brain isn't always creating new memory traces. You have to consciously decide to remember something before your brain will make an effort to store it away. Plus, there are limits to how much information your brain can store. Wow. So when you're learning something new, your brain will often try to find connections between the new information and things that you already know. This is called associative memory. So if you're trying to remember a fact, but can only remember something similar that you already knew. That is probably because your brain is trying to make sense of the new information in relation to old information. Sometimes this can lead to errors. For example, if you were trying to remember the name of a country, but can only remember a similar country that you already knew, you might end up remembering the wrong name. There are also times when you won't even try to remember something. For example, if you're trying to memorize a list of random words, you might not be able to remember all of them because your brain knows that they are unimportant. It's better to forget unimportant information because it frees up space for more important information. So if you're studying for a test, it's a good idea to focus on the most important concepts, because those are the ones that your brain will be most likely to remember. Another reason why you might forget something is because your brain is never able to encode the information in the first place. Encoding is the process of converting information into a form that can be stored in memory. So if you're trying to remember a fact but don't remember anything at all, it's because your brain wasn't able to encode the information properly. This could be because you didn't pay attention to the information, or because it was too similar to other information you already knew. Finally, there are times when you won't forget something no matter how hard you try. This is called flashbulb memory. Flashbulb memories are memories that are so emotionally charged that they become ingrained in our brains. They are often associated with a strong emotion, such as fear, sadness, or joy. An example of a flashbulb memory is the day you found out that your best friend had died. Even years later, you can still remember exactly where you were and what you were doing when you heard the news. We hope this gives you a better understanding of how your brain works and how you can improve your memory. Now go back and watch How Does Your Brain Work Explained Simply, or watch What is Neural Pruning and Why Is It Important? Explained Simply.